Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this planet that we all live on. Welcome to this edition of AAU TZM podcasts. My name is Adamantium, and hope everyone out there is feeling fandadoozy. Just the usual announcements. For those of you listening to this on YouTube right now, my podcasts also exist on talkshoe.com. In the video description, you'll find a direct link to it. So just in case for those of you who wanted to listen to and download the full 60-minute podcast for free in MP3 format, you know how we all like things that are for free. So go for it, guys. They're all for free, just like my free hugs. But anyway, I will waste no more time and get into the meat and potatoes of, since I'm a vegetarian, that'll be corn and potatoes of today's show. And that is my interview with James Phillips of TZMeducation.org. So if you'd like to say hello, James.
Hello, James.
It's great to have you back, man. How you been?
Yeah, can't complain. I'm still breathing air on the ride called life, so that tends to work okay for me. Been okay, thanks. How about you?
Yeah, man, not too bad. A few changes in my life, but it's slowly getting on track. But yeah, I thought today, since this is a topic that I've been thinking about every now and then, I thought I'd have a conversation with you about it. Essentially what this is going to be is a discussion on the notion of being an activist for either the Zeitgeist Movement or the Venus Project or any kind of notion of social change, and how it's affected your personal life, your work life, your worldview, essentially what it's like to be an activist. And for anyone who listens to this sort of thing and says, I'd like to contribute, but isn't an activist being about, I don't know, shouting on a megaphone in the street or bothering people with leaflets? And, just to give a sort of like insider's view, as it were, to what it is to be one of us.
One of us. Come drink the Kool-Aid. Sorry, is there a question in there?
How would you personally say that when you originally came upon this information, how did it actually affect your worldview, first off?
Well, it turned a few of them on their head. Namely, I suppose beforehand, I was always a little I was always very anti-establishment. I've never ever liked illegitimate authority of any kind. But I never really saw the fact that I was patriotic or, that I didn't think kings and queens was such a bad idea. This week's slightly been killing me with that notion, with the Queen's Jubilee that's been going on. But I won't go off on that tangent just now. So I remember when I was younger saying that if England ever won the World Cup, that, I'd cry with joy. So that's the sort of person I was, I suppose. I didn't like illegitimate authority, in short. I never have. I don't like being told what to do by people who can't back up themselves with a shred of evidence. I never have, and I suppose that's where I started to develop a disdain, for the current way of doing things. When you look at something and you do think, why are we doing that? Who's telling somebody to do that? And it opens up your world view a bit. But like I said, I still harboured onto all these sort of, how would you put it, like culturally reinforced value systems. On top of maybe things like working for a living. I was truly like, if you're poor and you're broke and, you're not doing well out of life and you're not doing well out of the world and how it works, it's your fault, man.
You've got to hit the grindstone harder.
Why don't you, sorry?
You got to hit the grindstone harder.
Yeah, man. Why don't you get off your ass and work harder? And do you know what? I haven't particularly shirked that view completely. I've shirked it in the way that our system frames it, that if you're suffering and you're in need, then, you just didn't try hard enough. I don't necessarily agree with that. I still agree with hard work, but I just think it hugely depends on what for, and our system gravitates your hard work towards you being a self-orientated douchebag. So I've let go of that. was a tough thing to let go of, and some of the other things were a little bit tough to let go of. And I suppose the other hard thing that I came to realize is just how much work we have to do, just how far, we have to go. Not that there's a final destination, of course, but to even get on to a stage where we have a remotely sane train of thought on a planet of 7 billion people all trying to go about their lives and live happily, to the best extent they can, just how far we even have to go until we can even reach a point where we can call ourselves civilized. And when you start to think of that, and you think about the root cause of the problem and just how we've got to turn this system on its head and the values on its head, then that can be quite daunting, and it can involve a hell of a lot of personal view altering, shall we say. So, there was a lot of that had to go on for me. What about you?
I'd say it was more or less the same. I mean, as a kid, I was always internally rebellious, and being an extroverted kid, I always let that out whenever I could. I mean, I'd always question things, but never to the point of, why are you enslaving me sort of thing. It was more to the point of, I don't wanna. So, so I guess in a sense, sorry,
you can't necessarily articulate why you don't wanna.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd already, so I guess in that sense, I'd always seen myself as a free spirit. I always knew that there were those shackles there, but I couldn't necessarily see them for what they are, why they're there, and how we can release ourselves from them. So, I'd always like rebelled against authority. I'd always be getting in trouble with teachers. Whenever they'd be calling the register, I'd always be answering my name, using humorous voices and getting sent out the class, and I'd always clash against the notion of enforced authority. But I guess it wasn't until, I think 9/11 was a big sort of catalyst, as it were, for a lot of people's minds. I mean, I didn't immediately start thinking to myself, oh God, look at that, that's free fall sort of thing. I never thought, oh no, there must be bombs planted in the building. I never thought any of that. I just looked at it and I thought, that's weird. That's weird that, that doesn't look right, sort of thing. And that initially set that sort of thing. And I was about 16, 17 then, but when I was 18, that was when I first discovered Bill Hicks. And it was actually through the film Human Traffic. There's one scene where the main character watches a bit of Bill Hicks. I saw that and I thought, oh, he sounds like a funny guy. So I got the CD called Philosophy, the Best of Bill Hicks, and I was just hooked from there. And it just completely it didn't so much open my eyes, it opened up my skull. And I was just like, wow, sort of thing. And I really started, being more firm with my questioning of things. I started calling people out on, their bullshit, essentially. And, basically it wasn't until, I think it was, 2008, I was in a big, huge obsession with conspiracy theories. I was watching loads of videos on YouTube, and I stumbled across a short video. It was like a segment of Zeitgeist, the movie, part 1, and I was just like, wow, I've never actually seen any of that information before. So I found the whole one. I was like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And then I found Zeitgeist Addendum, and I was just like, whoa. I've actually, cause before, I think it was in 2006, 2007, I was actually, actively looking into, different ways that we can actually shift out of some system of money. Cause it was when the recession of 2006 hit, I was just in the background. I was watching Star Trek: First Contact, and Picard's line, "Money is no longer the driving force in our lives. We work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity." I thought, wow, how about if we just get rid of money? And I had these like big ideas of like, doing loads of research and then emailing Gordon Brown, because he was the Prime Minister at the time, and emailing him saying, we need to look into this.
Yeah.
So,
great idea, Adam. Well done. Yeah, why didn't I think of it? I'll get it tomorrow morning. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think since about 2006 onwards, I was, sort of leaning towards the idea of thinking, no, this current system is not working whatsoever. We need to at least, not shift things around like so many people think that needs to happen. We can't just, rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. We need to move on to another ship, one that cannot sink. One that actually, I don't know, that doesn't float along in danger of the icebergs, one that actually maybe flies above them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I mean, how it originally affected my worldview was, originally I felt a combination of anger and joy, in a sense, because I kept thinking to myself, why have I been put into a world that has get this bad? But as I started moving and learning, I started thinking to myself, actually, no, it's a good thing for me to have been born into this time, because it's so much more interesting than most other periods of history. I mean, there's only a couple of times in history that even came close to this, like, the Renaissance period or the end of the Dark Ages, just other times like that. So I started thinking to myself, right, well, I've actually found something that I can actually pursue, that I can think to myself, right, this is how we can actually truly contribute towards humanity, But moving on to how things like this normally affect our lives, how would you say your family and friends initially responded to this change in your worldview?
I suppose one thing although I try not to have too many regrets, because not in the words of Stephen Fry, you shouldn't regret anything because at the time you meant to do it. I did get a little bit overexcited before I thought I'd questioned every area of it. I got excited, did some research, thought I'd questioned every area, got excited, told a couple of friends, and they brought up a couple of questions about human hierarchy and things like that I hadn't necessarily considered to the depths that I should have done. So in my discussion with them, I didn't answer their questions very well.
Yeah.
So I went away and researched that more, and it stood up. And occasionally I've been given a question as I've gone forward that I'm not necessarily had the best answer for. And so I had to go away and research it more. But every time I go away and do it, it just stands up to the benchmark of what a resource-based economy is. So actually, in a way, the friends I haven't been able to sort of convince that this